Welcome to Two Gals in a Glass Half Full. We are Dr. Jess and Dr. Bobbie, two physical therapists just trying to live healthy most of the time and doing our best to see our glasses as half full. Some days that is much harder than others. So we interview others more knowledgeable than us on topics that we don't know about, or sometimes you're stuck with Dr. Jess and I sharing our knowledge and information. So make sure you hit the subscribe button below to stay up to date on all the Two Gals happenings. We have some exciting things in works and coming in 2023. So I'm really excited. We're talking about goals this month, and I'm super excited for our guest today. But first, Dr. Jess, what do you have in your glass?
I have some water. So I'm doing my best to try and really finish multiple bottles per day. So I'm towards the end of bottle 2. So I have one more to finish, and that's going to wake me up in the middle of the night to pee. But you know what? I'm going to stay hydrated. So I've got a little bit of sliced cucumber in there to make it a little more tasty. So Dr. Bobbie, what's in your glass?
Plain old water as well. So just staying on that theme. I'm only on number 2 as well. So
I know, trying. 3 is
Three is tough. Yes.
Yeah. Goal setting right there. Yeah. All right. So with us today, we have somebody. Her name is Dr. Scott. So if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, sometimes it's easier for you to do the intro than for us to kind of like wander around, and then we'll get started. But first, what's in your glass?
Yeah, so I have a cup of Irish black tea. It's called Berries. So I was really intentional. I love the glass question, and I wanted to be like really intentional about what I chose for that. So tea drinking in Ireland is like a religion. So they're actually the second highest tea drinking country in the world. I did some research this morning. Impressive because they're a pretty small country, but so it's just sort of this like hospitality thing in Ireland, and sort of this like extension of friendship. So black tea also has a lot of health benefits. So I'm a naturopathic doctor. I practice natural medicine. So I love to use tea as medicine because it's kind of like a really great way to get herbs. So black tea is super nutrient dense, and for a lot of different reasons. Irish black tea in particular is really strong. So it's very high in antioxidants, which can help like find toxins and lower cholesterol and balance insulin and blood sugar. And it's high in something called tannins, which is like a binder. So that helps bind toxins too. Cool. And just in Ireland, just kind of culturally, it's the symbol of like warmth and friendship. So I thought it'd be a good lead in to our conversation and meeting you guys and having you me on. So
I love it. I have a glass of tea, or like a mug of tea pretty much every afternoon. That's like kind of like my go-to. Actually just finished it right before this before this meeting. So I'm glad that you're like validating the decisions I'm making.
Yeah.
And I'm one that has never liked tea, and like as an adult, like it's one of those things that like you just know or you hear is so good for you. So like I slowly am like trying to add like tea in, and I started with like the super diet green tea that's probably has no real tea in it, but just to get the flavor, and then kind of slowly, very slowly progressing into teas. It is a slow process for me.
Yeah, the tea I'm drinking right now is definitely strong, but yeah, it's cool that there's so many health benefits to that. So
right, absolutely. So talking about, being in January, goal setting, the biggest like topic we want to cover during this episode is when we're talking about goal setting for health. It can be pretty easy to put a number on that of like, if I'm just this like certain weight, then I'll be quote unquote healthy. Or if I just exercise this X amount of time per week, then I'll be quote unquote healthy. And we want to kind of take a step back from making a goal that's like just a number based, and kind of step back and like, what's the big picture of like, maybe if we're setting a health related goal, like what do we maybe want to consider about what would be in that goal? And so this is a big question, but like when you're talking to somebody, it's like this general, like, I want to be healthy this year. like, I really want to work on my health. Like, what are some of like the big picture topics that you would typically bring up of like what we consider to be like kind of good goals to shoot for like healthy goals?
Yeah, sure. I think, when I'm talking to a patient in general, like my first goal for myself as a doctor is to meet somebody where they're at. So that's whether like their level of investment, their effort, the cost of different treatments as well.
Mhm.
But a big thing about when I'm working with somebody is they have to be ready to make a change. So when I'm kind of evaluating, my job is to educate people and motivate them, empower them, but like they have to be the one to really do the change. And I think just the way that I practice and naturopathic doctors practice, we have these different principles that we kind of work off of, but doctor as teacher is one of them. And so doctor is derived from the Latin word docere, which means to teach. So doctors should be teaching their patients about their bodies and about what's going on, and they eat these foods or take these supplements and like why they're doing that. So I think a big part of like achieving the goals is not like, oh, I read about this diet on the internet and I'm just going to do this for a month and then like fall off the wagon of that, because it's not like a truly like I understand the why part. And I think that what I try to do with patients is to help them understand that part, to like so that they know why this is helping their bodies and everything. So I think that like the knowledge and understanding of the why for a patient is really important to get like more of a commitment in that way. And then I think just making like goals that are achievable, that it's not like 180ing my whole entire life, and it's small steps over time, that it's like this kind of health journey versus like I'm just doing this one thing for a short period of time that's I'm gonna burn out and like fall off and then go totally back to my old ways. So
Right.
I like the small steps because I think sometimes we, and I'm going to say we speaking for myself, but we as humans, sometimes we're like, okay, we're so excited to do something that we make, like, as you said, 180 changes. But reality is we're not going to be able to sustain those 180 changes. Like we need to take a small change and sustain that and make that a habit, and then kind of go to the next step and next step, versus like just trying to 180 completely turn your life around. May not be as realistic.
Yeah, I think like when, as far as like being in physical therapy, we set goals on a regular basis when we meet with a patient, right? It's like, what's going on? Where do you want to be? And then we set those goals long term, and then we cut them back into short-term goals that are really achievable to keep us on track with making sure that we're going towards that long-term goal. So in our profession, it's just kind of how we've been trained to think, that you're constantly trying to get to that, like those achievable short steps, so you don't get lost in the way to this long-term goal, because that's so easy to do. And like every time I have to do a progress note, it's always like a pain to like stop, take these measurements, whatever it might be. However, it really keeps you on track, because you're like, whoa, like I completely forgot like where you were. Like you're crushing it right now. This is great. Like I totally forgot we were even dealing with this. We might be undershooting a little bit over here. Like we're gonna bump this over here. We're gonna push it a little bit harder over there, because otherwise, like you might under treat a little bit, or you could overdo it a little bit. And so I think when we're goal setting for ourselves, it's like I just have this long-term goal, but it's hard to like have these like achievable steps, and that creates the sustainability, because it helps you not veer off and lose your way. And working with somebody that can help you with that could be one strategy. Like working with a healthcare provider might be something that works for you, or maybe not. But I think kind of gaining some wisdom from other individuals can be helpful for getting the knowledge that you need to set those steps in place. So this has helped me in the past. Yeah.
And I like how you talk about like educating. Like I feel like that's so important, and not just in healthcare, everywhere. I used to coach gymnastics, and if my kids understood why I was asking them to do what they were doing, they're much more willing to do it, or much more willing to follow. And I think that's the same we see in physical therapy. If I hand a patient a piece of paper and say, go do these exercises, about 2% are going to actually do it. But like, if I sit down and have a conversation and explain to them why, and they understand, then the compliance is a lot higher.
Right. So
Yeah,
go ahead.
interesting too, like just like you're saying, like checking progress over time, and sometimes you don't realize how much progress somebody is making. I treat a lot of patients with a lot of like really chronic kind of complicated health issues. So sometimes like maybe their biggest complaint is their fatigue, and so like we're checking 6 weeks later and maybe their fatigue's not much better, and they're like, I'm not any better. But then I ask them all these questions in our first visit, like, okay, how's your digestion, your bowel movements, all these things. And like, maybe they were like constipated and going to the bathroom like twice a week. And then I asked them again on that visit, and they're like, oh, well, yeah, that's not an issue. I'm going every day, but my energy is not different. I'm like, yeah, but like you're so much healthier in all these other ways. And it's kind of like reframing that for them too, that to stay on track, and that, can go for simple things too. But it's like, yeah, like maybe it's like, man, I hit my steps goal for the day every day this month. And like, I didn't realize, because like the scale hasn't moved much, but like I'm hitting all these goals. And so it's kind of like reframing that, like I'm doing these healthy things, even though like my big long-term goal we're not there yet. Like look at all these little wins that we have along the way.
Yeah. I think that's like when you're working with somebody that can help keep you focused a little bit. I think that can be helpful when you have a really big goal, like I'm going to lose X amount of weight, and you really want to keep that off. Sometimes it can be hard if you just do a dietary change, or just do exercise, or just do something without any support. I mean, there's supportive groups and all of that kind of stuff, and it doesn't always have to be something financial. However, I do think that when we're talking about health, including your provider into whatever your health related goals are is, I think, really important to have that open dialogue, so that way you can stay on track, and any of the features that the provider might need to be helping with, like you're gonna let them help you because that's all part of it. So like, let's say you got somebody that comes in, they're like, I really, like, my biggest thing is I want to lose weight. Like, because that's a big thing that, I hear it all the time. Like, if I just lost X amount of weight, my hip wouldn't hurt, or, and it's like, that is something. I mean, losing weight does decrease stress on joints, right? So like, yeah, you probably would feel better, but like, your left hip hurts and your right hip doesn't, you got the same weight on both. So like, there's probably something else going on as well. However, that's like a big topic, right? Like, I want to lose weight. Whoa. That is like really complex. Like when the healthcare provider hears that, you're like, like so much is going on. You're like, okay, where do I even start? And I think maybe people don't quite realize that there's so much between digestion, endocrine system, movement, pain, sleep, recovery from sleep. I mean, wow, where do you even start? Like, how do you like, okay, I'm gonna go to the next step. Like, what are your steps?
Yeah, I mean, and thinking like you said it perfectly, it's like all of these things you have to consider. So I think, and like framing that for people too, but I usually start with like, so my first visit with every patient is an hour, and I'm really diving into how they sleep, their digestion, their menstrual cycle, for example, if they're female, their diet, their exercise. Like I ask all of those questions. So kind of getting what their goal would be, a realistic goal would be. It's not like, oh, it's like the weight I was when I was a senior in high school and I've had 3 kids since then, I mean, like thinking about like realistically, like where are we that we could actually hit something. And yet just kind of framing, like, I think one thing, like, and I'll tell people this, like, calories in and calories out is a piece. Like, it doesn't matter who you are, you can't lose weight without diet and exercise. So like that part has to be there, and being honest with yourself about like, am I really trying and making the adjustments that I really need to be to like get to whatever the goal is. And so like thinking about that. And I do have patients where they are, and it's like, why isn't things moving? Like I'm doing everything right. So I think kind of saying that, like a little bit of tough love if they need it on that part, like, I mean, this really has to be there. But then exactly like you said, like looking at, I treat a lot of thyroid problems, like that impacts metabolism, sex hormone balance, insulin resistance, microbiome and your gut bacteria, inflammatory foods, if you're exposed to different chemicals and need to do some detoxing. I mean, like all of that, it can be like a little of each of those things, you know?
Right. Oh yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
are those things that, like, if someone was just go to a doctor and get lab work done, just general lab work, are those things that their doctor would pick up in that? Or is this something a little bit more specialized that they'd have to go further deeper into?
It probably would have to go further deeper. I would say like they would maybe do like there's this one blood test for a thyroid issue. It's called TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. So they might do that. And then like sometimes they'll do a T4 level. So that's looking at the thyroid, but it's just like the tip of the iceberg on a thyroid problem. So you might catch a thyroid issue with just those two tests in like the most obvious cases. But there's so much digging to just like do like literally a full blood panel that is like run through a normal lab and covered by insurance. It's just a matter of like doing a little bit more. So there's plenty of times where I've caught a thyroid issue that was like undiagnosed for like decades because they didn't run a full panel. It's not their fault. I mean, that's how they're conventional doctors are trained. It's nothing against them. They're doing what they're trained to do. But yeah, it was missed because just a full panel wasn't done, you know? So
yeah. Because I know there's a little bit of a difference, like looking at more of a holistic viewpoint, you know, versus conventional. And I've always been very interested in the holistic and looking at the, like, you know, as you mentioned, the minerals and the toxins and all that stuff that's like kind of built up in our blood system and in our system in general.
Yeah, definitely. Like just looking, even if we do all sorts of functional labs too, like we can do super in-depth, like one that I do a lot is it's a stool test for like digestion health and looking at the microbiome and things, but we do like specialized hormone testing and but even just with regular blood work, like I nitpick that too, because normal and optimal are two different things. So like, just because you're in the normal range, whether it's hormones or vitamins, like it doesn't mean that your body's functioning optimally. So we all want to feel awesome. Right. So, so looking at that for people too, is like something that I do a lot or always in practice.
Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. I've had a number of patients, you know, in the past, and some have worked more with like functional medicine or holistic medicine versus like conventional medicine. And I think it can be a really big difference in what is considered and how much nutrition can play into it, because like what we're directly absorbing is huge, and like even how it affects our hormone levels and not just weight. Inflammatory markers. I mean, it's just really complex. And so I think there's not just like a one size fits all diet. There's not a one size fits all blood test that is pretty simple that can catch everything. I think like the more that we can take a step back when we're looking at our health and saying like, I actually really want to just be like you said, like optimal, like not just okay, like I want to be optimal, like I want to feel great. And then if you are, and everything's balanced and you're eating well and you're moving, likely your weight's going to kind of have a positive impact, you know, and you're going to get to a weight that's healthy. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are. Like, if you really want to drop some significant weight, a lot more work has to go into like getting there versus sustaining it. So, you know, we've got kind of two different things there, you know. So let's say we have somebody that is like really like, and they know they significantly need to lose weight, you know, good amounts. What would you say is like a healthy amount of weight to kind of lose as they go, to then get to that sustain point, like per week, per month type thing?
Yeah, I think usually just kind of the general recommendation would be like 2 to 2.5 pounds a week, I think would be safe. You don't want to do like another thing too with losing weight too quickly is our fat cells store toxins. So like if you're like losing weight detoxes the body, so people can feel bad if they lose weight too quickly, and it can be kind of like more of a negative impact. So I think definitely just like recognizing that I have this this journey ahead of me, and I'm not gonna be at my goal in a month, depending on what that goal is. I mean,
Right.
just having the realistic like headspace about it. And yeah, that part is really important. But yeah, even these like gimmicky things, like, there's certain like diet things I've seen patients do. I haven't recommended them, but like it works for a little while. Like it works when they're on it. Yeah. Cause you're in this huge caloric deficit. And then as soon as you stop, the weight comes back on. Or these different medicines like phentermine, for example, like I've still seen that prescribed. Like it's a stimulant. So yeah, it'll work. Like you'll lose weight, but like, is it the healthiest way? You can't take those things forever. So then is it, then it comes back. Or sometimes people will gain even more. So yeah, it's just not the best strategy. And I think people having to be in the right headspace of like, this is a lifestyle change is like a really important part to that too.
Mm-hmm.
I know I did, and I won't say the name, but it was just it's not a diet. It was a very healthy for a few months or for 4 weeks, just eating really clean. Trying to be all organic, including meats and stuff. So you weren't restricted in the amount you could eat. You were just restricted in staying away from like grains, like bread and anything that is known to cause like inflammation in the body, just to kind of to figure out like what your body reacts to poorly. So that way, like going forward. And it was amazing in that 4 weeks, like I ate more than I normally ate. I felt amazing. I had no migraines. I slept through the night. Now, granted, I would say around week 2, my body was like, I felt horrible. I like almost was like, oh my gosh, going through that like detox of the sugar withdrawals, like, the fake sugar withdrawals, because you're still allowed to have fruit and stuff. So you still could have like natural sugars. But man, it was amazing what food can, just like food alone, like putting good whole food into your body with that alone how it can change. And I think I did it for 5 weeks and I was eating more, but I lost like 15 pounds and I didn't work out a single day, but it was just truly eating, really clean and healthy, lots of vegetables, fruits, lean protein.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing what nutrition can do. And I think that's such an important thing. And what I talk to patients about is like eating just whole foods that like grow from the ground, or like, the perimeter of the grocery store is a good kind of guidelines to go by, because foods with all these crazy chemicals, and a lot of times it's not our fault. It's the food industry that puts all these crazy things, and sugar is so in everything. Like, oh my gosh, if you look at a food label, you're like, why is there sugar in I've found sugar in my garlic salt before. I'm like, there's no reason. So yeah, even it's just amazing that like the chemicals in those foods and the preservatives and things, if you're eating this like whole foods diet, like it sounds like is what you did, then, and you can eat as much, you're not restricted, and you're like, I can eat as much of the healthy, good foods that I want to, because it's not causing all these like inflammatory processes in the body, because it's stuff that's like not natural to like things that we should be consuming. So
yeah, it was pretty amazing.
And that goes back to the lifestyle change though, because it is harder, right? Like
I had to do a ton of prepping, like during this, and I did it really, because I was at a point in my life where I was really sick. If I ate like anything I ate, I had a lot of stomach issues. So I felt better not eating, but then if I went not eating, I felt sick again. And that's not like how you can live. So I did it for 5 weeks, and I did it like strict, like super, super strict. And it was amazing what it could do. And then when I kind of went back, it was amazing to feel with those other foods, like how they feel back in you.
Yeah. Well, and hopefully like you start to feel like, okay, what is my baseline? And then like, what's my balance? I mean, that's why for us, like we're just, we're busy right now. We've got 2 kids we're both working full time. And we just decided that there's these like pre-prepared dinners that are all whole food, all organic. And it's kind of saving us right now for dinners. At least we prep our lunches, and we prep the lunches for the boys, and we prep their dinners. But at least our meal prep, we don't have to do also prep our dinners. And so it's like, but I'm just like committed, like we're eating whole food. Like that is, if it doesn't come out of the ground and when I recognize what this is, then we don't eat it. I mean, there's some stuff like, some granola bars, we just try and limit high fructose corn syrup and try and as best we can with some bars. But for the most part, we really try and just do like, this is a piece of broccoli and that's what we're going to eat. Not covered in cheese or anything, just broccoli, just an apple, and my stomach is so much better. I used to have all sorts of, just never felt great after I'd eat until it's like, nope, I'm done, but there's that lifestyle change that has to happen. I mean, it just is, it's a commitment.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting, like people, and I see this all the time in practice, I treat a lot of digestive problems, but like you get so used to feeling crummy that you think it's like you're normal and that you don't know what good feels like until you start to feel better. And then you're like, oh my God, like I've had patients even where they're like, they told me they weren't tired. And then 6 weeks later, they're like, oh, I was tired because now I feel awesome. So it's like they're living in this like cloud of whether it's like I'm always bloated or I'm always fatigued or I never sleep well. And it's just, that's what my body does. And this is normal for me, and they just kind of go through life thinking that that's just like the way that it is. And I think, especially with kind of speaking again on the like committing to certain diet changes, for example, or like a plan and a lifestyle change, like once you start to feel better, if there is a certain food that really makes you feel bad, like it's almost that you like cheating isn't worth it because you feel so good when you don't have it. So you don't even feel restricted. It's like, I don't even want that because like I know I'm gonna pay for that. And so it just doesn't appeal to me anymore. And I'm happy and eating this way or whatever it may be. So
That's so when I graduated PT school, I was very, very poor. And my mom sent me off as I moved to Arizona with like goldfish tuna, and I could afford water like out of the tap. And so for like the first 2 weeks, like I literally had goldfish tuna and like, something else, but like really small. And then the first paycheck I went and I grabbed my gallon of milk. I got this. And all of a sudden all my stomach issues were back. And I was like, wait a second. And so literally since that gallon of milk, I have not drank white milk like since then. And it doesn't even taste or sound good anymore to me. But yeah. So for someone that wants to start, like maybe they don't even know they have like they don't even know their stomach's bloated. They don't even know like what feeling good feels like. They're on this journey and their goal this year is to make them to be healthier. How can they start or what could they do?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely seeing some sort of, whether it's functional medicine or naturopathic medicine, like a doctor that's going to really listen to like all of those symptoms to help connect the dots, because sometimes you're not connecting what's going on, but like the doctor who's listening to the whole story might be. So somebody that has a bit more time to kind of listen to a full story, I think would be a good place to start. And then, yeah, as far as just like achievable goals, I think a lot of times people think like I have to be eating keto and like doing deadlifts in the gym every day to be like healthy. And there's so many like little things that you could do to get started at least. So just different goals. If somebody's like, oh my God, like everything, they have just everything that they need to change, starting with small achievable things that I talk to patients a lot. One would be like, just make sure breakfast is healthy every day. Just start there, get a really good breakfast in, and then we'll go from there, and that at least you're focused on that. And then like maybe a couple weeks from now, breakfast feels good. You're comfortable with that. You're not restricted. Then let's make lunch super healthy and then kind of go from there. So those would be like little ways to get nutritional things in that are like achievable. And then as far as exercise goes, exercise is harder sometimes, I think. Like, so getting people moving, I think, is like, if you could put the benefits of exercise into a pill, like God, we'd like cure so many people.
Yeah.
But like what I just suggest to people for that is a goal of, and I don't know what you guys as PTs, I mean, obviously even more about that than I would, but 3 hours a week, and I'll frame it to them as like, there's 168 hours in a week. So like we should be able to give 3 of them to exercise. And it doesn't matter. Like at that point, it's like walk your dog. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is, just do something you enjoy doing and start there. Then maybe we'll get to deadlifts in the gym. I don't know, but doing something small.
Yeah.
I always tell people, I mean, it depends on where they are. I have some family members that are very much their exercise would be literally standing up every half hour or every hour, just literally standing up, maybe walking to the bathroom, walk water, like walk 10 feet. And that's it, you know, and for them, that would be like a huge improvement in their daily exercise. And then there's others that, they need more than that. That's their normal.
Mhm. Yeah. Even like I tell people all the time, like, so you can't walk a mile. That's okay. Can you walk to your mailbox and back? Well, yeah. Could you walk one house down and back? Yeah. Okay.
Start
Like,
there.
that's okay. Like when I was like, you know, after like my C-section, woof. Like I was like, that was me. I walked to the end of the driveway and I walked back and I was like, done. But then you know what? The next day I walked down the driveway and I walked down the sidewalk, one house, and I walked back. And then the next day I walked 2 houses. And so, and you know what I didn't do? I didn't say, I can't believe I only walked the driveway. I was like, hey, I got outside and I stood up straight. Well, I wasn't up straight all the way, but like straighter, you know? So each little bit that you do, you just make it like a little bit more achievable. So it doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm going to run this 5K. If I can't really like walk a mile, start with like something achievable and then like grow off of it into whatever it is that you really do want. Because sometimes if you don't have that longer goal of what you really want, you kind of get lost in the middle of this, like somehow you walk a couple of houses and then it gets boring and then you forget why you were doing it. And so it's like, oh wait, I did want 3 hours a week of exercise. Why was that again? Oh, because every system of my body benefits. Literally every possible system in your body improves when you exercise. So like for us, we're like, yeah, like this is our jam. And then when you look at the research, you're like, holy goodness, like it is so like clear how good exercise is for you. But how can you make it fun and enjoyable? Do it with somebody, have a partner, go to classes at a gym, like you know, find a buddy to like, I run twice as far when I run with somebody than when I run by myself. And somehow my legs aren't as heavy. Like it's like, what? Like just having somebody next to me. Sometimes it's Bobbie in my ear. Mike, I need someone to talk to. I'm doing a long run today.
And trying
like,
new things, I think, is important too. You know, like not saying no to, oh, I'm not going to like that. Like just try it. You never know.
I mean, yeah, worst case scenario, it wasn't fun. Okay, try something else. Yeah. Perfect. Well, I think like just basic nutrition, whole foods, exercise, big goal, 3 hours a week, typically cardio, like around 150 minutes a week, and then strengthening in as well. How you disperse that just depends on you, your level, what you're interested in. But you will have health benefits if you do that, like 100%. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts. And I think we heard something about like a detox that you were doing. We were kind of curious about like detoxes, like it's a big thing, right? Like I hear about people doing them. And so like, I'm super curious.
Some of them sound crazy.
Like,
Some of them you're kind of like, really? Like, is that healthy?
Yeah, totally. So a lot of people ask me about doing like, I just need to cleanse in January after the holidays. People will talk to me about that all the time. So this year I decided like, let me just do a virtual workshop so I can like give all whoever wants to cleanse together in a community. Like you said, I mean, I think there's so much to be said about people kind of going through a similar health issue or having a similar goal in mind, where it's like my workout buddy who I run 2 times faster when I'm doing that. I think same goes with doing something like a detox, right? And that's why I kind of wanted to create that too, is it's sort of this like community event that like we're all doing this together, and you know, we're all in the same boat learning about our bodies and everything. So there's a cleanse. We sell a lot of different supplements that are at Whole Health Chicago too. So it's a cleanse that we've sold for years. I've put people on it, depending on what they have going on all the time. But it's 10 days. It comes with a protein shake. It's called the 10-day like clear change detox program. The company's called Metagenics. And it comes with a protein shake and then like a liver support supplement and then a really just specific diet plan. So it kind of gets a bit more restricted as the days go on. So days 5 through 7, you have like really specific foods that you can eat, but you increase the protein shakes. So you're having like 4 protein shakes a day. So they're just pretty particular about just the different foods. And like you kind of mentioned earlier, just with inflammation and everything. So that's sort of the premise of it. But so the detox that I'm doing, it's a live, will be like a Zoom call, like a live hour-long webinar talking about like what detoxing is and how to do it. So the timing that you do the supplements and just like a sample kind of food menu and a shopping list, sort of just like giving, I'm going to be doing it too. So just basically like, this is my shopping list of like what I'm going to be buying and doing over the next 10 days. Just so we can all kind of do it together. So yeah, that's the plan for that. I'm excited about it. We've had a lot of people sign up already. So there's still like a couple days until it's on January 9th. So yeah, we'll see how it goes, but
yeah, I think that's awesome. I think it's like such a good thing to do at the beginning of the year of like, okay, like I'm going to like cleanse, detox, kind of get rid of some yucks, get feeling good. And then it's like, it almost like sometimes with like, when we're feeding the kids, we call it priming the pump. Like you just get them going a little bit with something that they like, and then you sneak in the stuff that they really need to eat. It's almost like priming the pump, right? You start feeling a little bit better and you're like, oh, I could consider X, Y, or Z now that I don't have this bloating and, because like who wants to go for a run when you're bloated? I don't. So it's like I want to exercise, but I don't feel that great. I'm tired. So this could be a way of like kind of getting everything like feeling a little better. And then you're like, I do have the energy to do 30 minutes at the end of the day or get up a little early and do something.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it that way, but you're totally right. I think that people kind of can't even, sometimes they're just too tired or maybe they're too bloated to like even think about making a change. Cause it's like, I just feel bad all the time. So yeah, I mean, something like this where it's like, okay, I'm focused on these 10 days and just think about it as like the short term, like these 10 days, I'm going to do this thing. And then, maybe your goals after that for the rest of the time are more achievable because you're approaching it from a place of strength, where like your body's a bit more vibrant in that moment. So yeah, that's a really great way to put it.
Yeah. And I've never done a detox like that, but I know when I did that, well, I guess kind of what I did was a detox in a way. It was just a longer version, a little, and not through like liquids and stuff, but it was amazing afterwards, like how much just food tasted different. Like I felt like I tasted the natural flavors in food a lot more. And then when I had something with, I think one of the first things I had was like a Moscato wine, because that's like, you couldn't have it. So for 5 weeks, I couldn't have it. And I just wanted a glass of wine with friends. And I went to like my normal favorite that I had before it. And I tasted it. I was like, oh my gosh, like it was so sweet. Like I didn't finish it. I remember being like, this is way too sweet now. And they all kind of looked at me like I was crazy, but I was like, I promise you, it like tastes different. Like just foods taste I don't know how to describe it. It was more of a flavor, not so much the salt or it was just more flavorful in each of all the food.
Yeah. And your brain starts to not seek the sugar. So, because like when you take the sugar out and then it realizes that it doesn't need the sugar because it's been looking for the sugar, then that's like huge. Like how much, like you're saying, how much sugar is added to things is crazy. And the level of sweetness in the not real sugars is like so much higher than like like a sucrose and or fructose rather in fruit. So it's crazy like what it does to your brain. Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
And like that week too, like you just like it almost was like questioning because you feel so terrible because like the first 2-3 days you feel great. but then you start going crashing, like, and that body is like really seeking that sugar. And
Mhm.
it's like that next like 10 days, you're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing to myself? But if you can get past that, it's amazing how much better you feel.
Yeah. Setting realistic expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's not always like a joyride. But then you get the benefits later. Yeah.
Mhm.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Scott, thank you so much for coming on. We will definitely be including all of the information about your detox just in case anybody else is interested in joining. Sounds like a good first step if you have a health goal, maybe something to try. Trying some whole foods, trying some exercise. The rest of the month of January, we're going to be continuing to cover goal setting in different areas, like more like spiritual, recreational goal setting, some financial, career goal setting, all the real fun stuff. And then we're going to dip into exercise, our lovely category that we enjoy in February. And so that way we can kind of like continue on all these trends, and then we'll jump into nutrition in March, and then it just keeps going from there. So everything really is trying to build on itself so we can be supportive with the content that's coming out. So if anybody wants to follow us on social media, definitely do. We're on Facebook. We've got a closed group and an open group. We're on Instagram. And we also have a subscribers membership where we have, it's called 2 Gals Insiders. So anybody that wants more of that community-based, really more like some specific achievable steps that you can do each month with a group of individuals that are like-minded, check out our website, 2gals.com, and it's all in the information below in the episode as well. So we are here to be supportive or as much as possible. All right, everybody. So thank you so much, and we will see you soon.